Our long national nightmare is over.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Welcome into another edition of Southwest Bias, live from Studio K, brought to you by our friends at Circle K. And yeah, our long national nightmare is over. Bradley Beal is no longer a Phoenix Sun after he reached a buyout agreement with the team earlier today and then reportedly is signing a 2-year, $11 million contract with the Los Angeles Clippers. So it's over. He's no longer a Sun. What felt like was imminent for 2.5 weeks has actually happened. And reportedly, exclusively from our friend Gerald Bourguet of PHNX Suns, the team has until August 31st to decide whether it'll be a waive-and-stretch. But, quote, they're 99% sure that's where it's headed, according to sources. And I think it's 100% the right move. Because the Phoenix Suns, as everybody complained, were in salary cap hell, and they weren't going to be able to do anything for the next few years, and draft picks were going to be locked. All these things were going to happen. And by waiving and stretching Bradley Beal, you're under the aprons. You now have an opportunity to retool and rebuild in a way that you aren't handcuffed, right? There's so many different things that you can do now that you can actually rebuild this roster in a way that can be successful in the time that Devin Booker has in his prime, right? There's a reason you signed Devin Booker for another 2 years on top of the 3 he had, because you know that this year is a transition year. And we all knew that. No matter what happened with Bradley Beal, this year, 25-26, was going to be a transition year for the Suns, where they tried to establish culture. They tried to get younger and more athletic, and they tried to figure out who they'd be for the future. And that's still the way this is going to be. They will be able to accomplish that. This will be a transition year where they can build that culture. And that's why, despite a lot of us wondering, should they go the Jake Crowder route and send Bradley Beal home, this makes more sense. Because Bradley Beal didn't fit the new mindset that the Suns wanted. Gritty, tough. That just wasn't who he was. Not for this team and not over his career. And having a guy around that knew you didn't want him here and that he didn't want to be here was not going to be an effective way to handle this. And sending him home, all that was going to accomplish was hurting his value even more overall, which makes you look bad to other players. I don't think that was ever truly an option on the table. Your two options were to eat that contract, the $50 million over the next 2 years, which essentially would have locked draft picks for multiple years and hurt your ability to aggregate salaries and trades. You weren't going to be able to do a lot of different things, like sign somebody to the mid-level exception. Those things would have been prohibited over the next 2 years, which would have limited your ability to continue to build this roster and set you up for 26-27 and 27-28. Where I think is where the Suns will take that next step in a rebuild process, where they'll look at, are there major moves that we can make? Is there a star that's going to try to force their way out? Is there extra guys in free agency that you think fit around this? People complaining where the next big move is going to come. I think this team should be out of that business. Why getting off of Bradley Beal and getting away from Kevin Durant should you then go automatically into chasing another superstar right away? It didn't work. And so many people long for that 21 Suns team, that finals run. They weren't star-built. They were homegrown. The one guy that they got that qualified as a star was Chris Paul, that forced his way here. Those kind of things will still be in play, but I think you're getting back to more of the core of what everybody longed for. Those young players that can have that impact, that can be around Devin Booker, that can play defense. These things that everybody pounded the table that the Suns turned their backs on is what they're facing towards now in the future. It's what they want. And I mean, let's be honest. I don't think anybody can argue that Bradley Beal was going to be any good for this team moving forward. And I don't understand why $50 million over the next 2 years is what everybody wanted. Because those same people are saying, well, then, I mean, you're not going to be able to make moves in 3 years because you're going to have $19 million on the cap. So you'd rather be handcuffed the next 2 and not be able to do anything because literally you'd have no options? This jumpstarts your rebuild. And the only reason that $19 million in cap money is going to matter is to Matt Ishbia's pocketbook in the end. His wallet will get lighter because he's going to have to spend more, because he's going to have to go over the cap again eventually to rebuild, to take that next step. And he's proven he's willing to do that. So $19 million on the cap over the next 5 years isn't going to mean anything. Because, and Shane, do we have this graphic where the decrease in salary cap over the next 5 years, the percentage, it becomes lower and lower. It'll be projected to be about 12.5% this year, 11.8% in 26-27, 10.7% in 27-28, 9.7% in 28-29, and 8.8% in 29-30. That's the way you've got to look at it, right? You've got to look at it as the cap goes up 7 to 10% every year. This money is less and less in terms of what it means salary-wise to you. This is why you do it. This is why you approach it this way, is because it lessens that impact rather than taking 2 years where essentially you can't make any moves. You want to add to this roster? You want to try to make Devin Booker capable of having additional success moving forward? You're not going to be able to do that if over the next 2 years if you don't waive and stretch him. So you're going to want to tell Devin Booker, sit there for 2 years. We're not going to be able to make any moves, but we promise once that Bradley Beal money gets off the books, we'll do something then. I don't think that would go over very well with your superstar. You knew they were committed to a retool rather than a rebuild. And sitting on $100 million over 2 years of Bradley Beal and handcuffing yourself to the radiator while doing it and not being able to aggregate salaries or have exceptions wouldn't have done it. And I see somebody in the chat saying he's expiring contracts next year. You can trade him. Nobody was trading for Bradley Beal at $50 million. I don't know how many times I have to say that. And if they were trading you $50 million worth of trash contracts in return. So it wasn't going to solve your money. It was not going to solve your cap issues. And it was not going to make you a better team by looking at that. The market made it very clear, we are not trading for Bradley Beal. And we're not going to trade anything of value for him. The Phoenix Suns made the right move, right? They're ducking the second apron because of it. They're going to be able to make roster moves that are important to making things better. They can absorb players into a certain amount of that MLE. They can send cash out in trades. They can execute signing trades. They can take more money than they send out in a trade, and they can aggregate salaries in a trade now. You know how many doors that opens to make this roster better? Not just when that money comes off the books, but over the next year or two. If trade opportunities come up, guess what? You're a player now if you want to be. Where if you kept that money on the books for 2 years, you weren't going to be a player. You were going to have to sit in the stands and watch as your team was transitioning into a new mold, but you were not able to add people to it beyond what you had. And sure, this season is probably going to be a season where you don't see any major moves. I don't think there's some secret big move in their back pockets right now that they made this so they could do automatically. I think they add another guard and they say, you know what? we're good for this year. We'll see how it plays out, and maybe we make trades in season. Maybe we make moves then. I'm going to tell you right now, I think this team has more wins this year than they did last year. I think this team is actually in play-in contention. And people say that like it's a bad thing, but if you looked at last year, they weren't in the last 3 weeks really in play-in contention with a bloated roster and superstars on it. So wouldn't a young, hungry, fun team that isn't play-in contention in 25-26 be an improvement over what we suffered through last year? That's a way you got to look at this. That's in part why you do this as well. The team can establish that culture, can unbridle themselves from the sins of the past and start to move towards that future. I'll tell you, for me, if I can watch fun basketball that has an opportunity to be in that play-in, I am all in on that. And those of you that are saying, well, CP3, I've been telling you on this program for 3 weeks, CP3 ain't happening. I think he winds up in LA with Bradley Beal. Anthony Melton was another name that fans liked. I don't think he's going to wind up here. And Malcolm Brogdon was a name that came up, and everything that I've heard, that's not a name either. You're probably going to try to find somebody on the younger side that maybe you can get at a cheaper price right now, and that he can grow with this group, or a one-year flyer to help add some additional leadership to the squad in this transition year. I'm not the only one that thinks this is a good move, though, because I'm not a math guy. I'll admit that. I did not, despite having a father who was an accountant, I'm not a math guy. But guys who are in this business because of it, like ESPN's Bobby Marks, really like this move. He said to our own Gerald Bourguet, let's forget the trade ever happened and look ahead. There's more positives than negatives for this wave and stretch. It'd be something that I would recommend, just unlocks a lot more options to build the roster. So don't take it from me if you don't want. Take it from Bobby Marks. Go read other cap people like Keith Smith who think this is a good idea as well to open up the way you build a roster. Sure, there'll be some fans that are upset, some talking heads that'll scream that it's a waste. And that's their prerogative. But for me, this was the right move, and I think it was the only move that you could really make in the end. Because if you are truly committed to trying to optimize Devin Booker's prime moving forward, this moment was inevitable after you decided that last iteration didn't work. And I think each and every one of us had decided that by January last year, and maybe some of us even had before. That iteration was never going to work. This year was always going to be a transition year. But by unlocking those options, that retool and rebuild could be in full swing in 26-27 and could put you back into contention in the next few years. Because the NBA changes fast. Things swing vastly. Just ask Dallas Mavericks fans who were in the gutter after trading Luka in the middle of the night and on cloud 9 after getting the number 1 pick in a crazy draft lottery night. Ask the Pacers who were coming off a finals run but then lost Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner how fast things can change. This was the only option if you wanted to truly find your way back to being a quality team in the Western Conference in the NBA. Waiving and stretching Bradley Beal, saying goodbye to him, and moving on to a future that's about youth, athleticism, grit, and toughness is the path you're on, and this is the way to help you get there. But maybe that's just my Southwest bias. We welcome in the mustache behind the Mac, Shane Diefenbach. Shane, thoughts on Bradley Beal finally being gone from the Phoenix Suns?
I think I've given them all already.
You've given them all. You're out.
I got nothing.
You got nothing.
Nothing. This is like, I mean.
Do you wish you got a cut of that wave and stretch money?
Yeah, I wish I got $1 or $2.
I feel like we all deserve a portion of it.
Yeah.
Like that $13.8 million that the Suns saved. Can they divvy that up between all of us fans who had to suffer? Can we each get a year free of Suns Plus just to watch the new team just because we went through that? I mean, I would love for that to happen. I feel like we all suffered so much, and I hope that this is a point we look back on and say, hey, all right, this is where things kind of turned. I know a lot of people are like, oh, now the Clippers are going to win a title. Bradley Beal, we're going to have to watch him raise the Larry O'Brien. I've seen that online. Let me tell you one thing.
Who is saying that?
There are some Suns fans who said that to me.
With what team?
I don't know, but let me say this. If you believe the Suns are cursed, the Clippers are even more cursed. So I'm not overly concerned about that.
Devin Booker and Bradley Beal didn't work. Do you think James Harden and Bradley Beal are going to work?
No. If he wanted to win a title, he should have gone to Golden State. Because they reportedly had interest. I think you'd have more of a chance there than you're going to have with the Clippers.
If he wants to win a title, he should become an assistant coach and join the Oklahoma City Thunder staff.
Fair enough. There's an opportunity there. But look, man, I know. I smelly garage fluid said Suns are paying $160+ million a year for Booker, Brooks, Green, Grayson, Royce, and dead money. Okay, so they're paying money to all those guys. True. 3 of which are starters, 2 of which could be traded and combined to get another player. That's the point. I understand that the money it doesn't fully make sense right now with the way the roster is constructed. But guess what? It wasn't going to over the next 2 years if you sat on Bradley Beal's money, and now you have options to change that. Right? That's the thing here. The flexibility, right? You went from the flexibility of a 90-year-old man to the flexibility of a yoga instructor with this move. You went from not being able to do anything over the next few off seasons to now having a multitude of options to continue to build this roster. That MLE is nothing to sneeze at. You can get quality players, especially with the fact that the middle class in the NBA doesn't exist anymore. Being able to aggregate salaries and trades is a huge way to improve your roster, especially if for some of you want to go back to some of those bigger names. Now you could actually aggregate salary and make that happen. Oh, if you stay under the cap this year and part of next year, you can trade that 2032 first round pick. And now the 2031 opens up if you stay under the cap for the remainder of this season. So now you have more capital to trade, which people said, oh, the Suns don't. They're stuck. This unlocks so much for the Phoenix Suns by going this way. I think it is there. I think that the MLE isn't as much for this year as it is for next year for me. I know Mark Brooks in the chat talking about that, there's not many people that agree to it this year. Again, this isn't about some big move happening this offseason. They told you they were going to change the culture. They told you they were going to get younger. They told you that they were going to attempt to get more athletic and grittier. They did all those things, right? Never did they say, we're going to bring in another star here. No, this was about building the culture, changing the mindset, having fun with basketball again. And I think they accomplished that this offseason. That review guy says, we need Allen now that Beal's gone for depth. I agree. You now need a backup guard that's going to come in after Green or Booker comes off the court. And Bradley Beal Grayson Allen shooting is important to this team now without Bradley Beal. He can help spread the floor. And I know people are excited about Kobe Bray and his shooting ability. I would much rather ride with Grayson Allen for this year and then see what you can do, right? I think that this is a way to start things. Corey Sanders says exactly. At least they made changes, and Jalen Green is a star. Y'all will see. I have big hopes for Jalen Green in what he'll be able to do and that chip on his shoulder, like we talked about yesterday. There's hope. There's all sorts of paths now. When 6 weeks ago it was doom and gloom, there's no chance. You're locked in a room in basketball purgatory for the next 5 to 10 years. Guess what? Maybe we're a year where it's play in, and we hope that happens, right? And I'm okay with that. But I think you've at least cracked the door open to what those subsequent years could be, rather than what they were gonna be if you didn't make the Kevin Durant move, if you didn't make the Bradley Beal move. I think that we are sitting in a much better position if we're Phoenix Suns fans. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about a little bit more Bradley Beal on the other side, and it's What If Week here for ALLCITY and PHNX. We'll talk about the next two on our What If list coming up right after this on Southwest Bias. Mountain America Credit Union. You want to talk about saving money like we did when it came to Bradley Beal. You want to talk about flexibility in your spending. Mountain America Credit Union has you covered, and they take care of their over 1 million members right now. They've got 100 branches plus across the West, but that's not the best part. Right now, with the Mountain America Rewards credit card, you can get 2 times the points per purchase through July 31st. You want to stretch that dollar, and we all need to stretch that dollar right now. You can do it with this. You're going to get double points on gas, groceries, travel, home projects, and all other purchases. So, if you're buying out a contract and you spend $19 million this year, put it on that card. You're getting double points. You're getting $38 million in points, right? Why not? Double it up. The promotion's easy to stretch your dollar, and you can use those on travel rebates, gift cards, and event tickets. It's a limited time only, so take advantage of it while you can. Details at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. Let me tell you about my friends at Branded Bills. I wear a Branded Bills hat on this program all the time. You see our custom Branded Bills hat on the table. It's the one that I throw towards you at the end of every episode. I love Branded Bills. There's not a better constructed hat. There's not a better feeling hat. And there's not a better looking hat out there. Believe me, I know. I own over 70 hats right now, and most of them are becoming Branded Bills. You want breathable hats in the summer because it's hot? They have those. You looking for apparel and even custom apparel and headwear for your business? Branded Bills can take care of that too. And right now, I want to offer you something just from me to you. 15% off your first purchase when you head to brandedbills.com and use that promo code BBPHNX. Head to brandedbills.com, use that promo code BBPHNX for 15% off. All right. So final thoughts on the Bradley Beal waive and stretch that's likely coming. They did buy him out officially. I think we will not see anything other than another point guard. To recap, I don't think it's going to be Chris Paul. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I've been telling you that, trying to prepare you for it, but I don't think it'll be Chris Paul. I don't think it'll be DeAnthony Melton, and I also don't think it'll be Malcolm Brogdon. I would look at maybe younger or a guy that maybe you can get on a 1-year deal that can provide some veteran leadership, but is more of a defensive-minded point guard potentially. I don't know. Could wind up being a dual guard as well, but that will likely happen, I guess, sooner rather than later on that front. And guess what? The Suns can now also look at trades and different things that I think they will not do this offseason, but I think they'll start looking at as we wind up moving in to the future. Sparrow's life says Tyus Jones, no, unfortunately, he signed with the Orlando
Unfortunately.
Magic. Well, unfortunately for suggesting it as an option. But, he's
I think Sparrow's life was joking because he said too soon.
I hope so. Yes. Way, way too soon. So we mentioned it is What If Week here at PHNX. And the premise is simple. We take a look at things that happen in Arizona sports and wonder, what if they didn't happen? What would have occurred in terms of things? And we've unveiled numbers 10 through 7 on the program, but today we are unveiling number 6 and number 5. At number 6, the question is, what if Lute Olson never came to Arizona? He left Iowa in the early 80s to come here and chose to be the coach in Tucson, thinking he could turn that program into a powerhouse, and that's what he did. They won the 1997 National Championship, and they became probably that next tier under the Blue Bloods in college basketball. Some would argue that they are Blue Bloods in college basketball.
And they've stayed in that tier below the Blue Bloods since then.
I'm not arguing, but they've at least been a perennial top 25 team. And I think what happens if he never comes there, I think U of A becomes ASU in basketball. a team that never finds its way, a team that's constantly cycling through coaches, a team that is always a sleeping giant in both football and basketball. And it's, oh, well, why wouldn't people want to play here? It's beautiful weather, wonderful campus. Why would they not want to come here? I think we'd all be treating U of A very much like we do ASU in that way. And maybe there would have been seasons or pockets of success where you made a Sweet 16 run and then there'd be droughts. And that's not a knock on ASU. That's just the reality of where they've been and where I think U of A would have been, right? I think that's where U of A would have been. Number 5 on the list. This is a juicy one. This is one that I think directly impacted an opportunity at a championship. It's what if targeting was called against Texas in the Peach Bowl? You look at it and they were so close. They had all the momentum. They fought back and there was no targeting call on this play. They would have had a chance to score if they had done it. The game wouldn't have gone into overtime if they had accomplished that. And the Sun Devils would have moved on to play Ohio State in the CFB and would have had unbelievable hype, unbelievable momentum. And it was a team that already was fully bought into themselves. Cam Scatterbu had already turned himself into a national household name. And I think that would have continued. Would they have beaten Ohio State? I'm not sure. But they would have been there. And I think defeating Texas continues the ability to recruit even more. They've got a great Kenny's great at recruiting there, but it also, correct me if I'm wrong, would have brought in additional money too by moving to the next round.
Yeah, you would have been in the semifinal.
Which in the semifinal you get more money. That adds more money into what the university could have put towards the football program moving forward and would have helped the conference as well. I think that that's a very interesting one. But Shane, do you think that they definitely win in that situation? Do you think that this is as big of a what if to be at number 5?
I don't know. I mean, it was 3rd down. You had to punt after this. It was the end of the game. You definitely would have had a look at a field goal, but you have a look at a field goal in a season where you had no kicker that was successful in the biggest moment of their life. You probably still go to overtime, and then overtime's different. There's no 4th and 15 probably, like just because of how the game would have played out. It would have played out differently. So I would not say definitely won. You would have had a hell of a lot better chance to win. I think Kenny would have tried to score. I think he would have tried to get 6.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny never backs away from that, so I certainly think
but
would be a chance.
I have to play devil's advocate. I kind of think that it almost would have been worse if they went on to play Ohio State, because that Ohio State team is one of the best teams in the past 20 years that I've seen.
So you think maybe they get blown up?
They get killed. Absolutely, they get killed, and then you have this doubt creep in the back of your mind to some of the players maybe that decided to stay this year, that this team isn't on the level. And this is a total hypothetical, and I'm just trying.
The whole exercise is.
I know. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, but then you realize you're not on the same tier, even though that team is in a tier of its own completely. Like they didn't have a close game all year after that Michigan game, so I don't know.
Yeah, these what ifs are tough, right? Because I said it yesterday. It's the butterfly effect, right? Like one thing changes and you don't know what the unintended consequence that comes along with it is as well. But I'll tell you what, if we do this again in the future, I guarantee what if you didn't trade for Bradley Beal would be on the list for sure. As we talked about, Bradley Beal is no more. The Suns and their fans can move on, and it puts an end to the chapter of the Big Three and the championship hopes that came along with that and the massive disappointment. So it is a fresh start for the Suns, and we'll have a fresh start tomorrow right here on Southwest Bias. Big thank you to the mustache behind the Mac, Shane Diefenbach, who had to rush to redo the entire show about 30 minutes before we were starting, thanks to the Suns and Bradley Beal. You can follow him at Shane Dief. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. And you can follow me at Espo. And remember, it's not your 100 million. So why do you care if they spread it out over 5 years or not? Ahoy, hoy!
We all silly like the mayor.